Hello everyone, Sigs here, and welcome back to Magic the Gathering Arena. So we're going to be doing some more ranked matches today. We did some the other night. We went 7 wins and 3 losses, 2 of which of the losses I probably should have won, so we've been doing pretty well. We're down here in gold tiers, so there's not exactly some staunch competition for wins, but we're hoping we can grind our way up to platinum and hopefully beyond, maybe get to mythic with 22 days left in the season. So today we're going to be doing something a little different. However, we've been using this is a Wizards deck, which I think is pretty inarguably the best deck that I have, but at the risk of having like an entire playthrough of the ranked ladder being just one deck, I thought while we're still down in these lower tiers, we would maybe try using a couple other decks. Also, while we're at the start of a tier, if we lose, we won't actually go down in rank because none of these little pips are filled in. So I have 2 other decks, and I thought I would try to do some matches with them. I also have these quests here, green spells and white spells, and that happens to coincide perfectly with the 2 other decks that I have, which I'll show you here. I should probably re-roll those quests to 750 gold quests, but we're going to keep them. And I'll show you the decks we're going to use. So the first one is this mono green elf deck. It's a pretty common deck. It does not take too many wild cards, I don't think. So I do see it run fairly frequently. It's a pretty standard, just kind of aggro, fast playing, low mana curve type deck. So I'll just quickly kind of mouse over the cards here so you can get a look at them in case you're wondering. I'll put a deck list down in the description as well if I remember, which hopefully I do. And yeah, I mean, the way it works is you play low mana elves that generate mana so that you can play multiple other elves that all combo into doing various things, and then hopefully if they stick on the board, you can pump with either the Allosaurus Shepherd for 6 mana or the Elvish War Master for 7 mana. Pump up all your little elves, make them stronger, and then swing in for big damage, or potentially play the Craterhoof Behemoth and then just swing in and win with all of your huge trampler creatures. So that's the gist of how the deck works. You have Collected Company to drop extra elves. You have Frailes, gives you good value because you can tap an elf for mana and then untap it with Frailes and then retap it. It'll help you find more cards, filter through your deck a little bit. Fierce Empath is to find Craterhoof Behemoth specifically. That's kind of the win condition. So that's basically how this deck works. Just a whole bunch of creatures. It really has like no removal or anything else. So it does run into a lot of trouble against a lot of different deck matchups. If the enemy has any removal, any board wipes, counter spells, things like that, it can really screw up your tempo, and then you just end up losing. So that's why I haven't really been using it, but I thought we'd kind of showcase it here. So I think we'll do that first, see if we could finish our quest and maybe get a rank up with the elf deck. So we'll see what happens. We may end up just losing a bunch of matches here, but if nothing else, I can kind of show how the decks work and maybe show a little bit more about why I don't use them most of the time and why this is a Wizards deck is better in my opinion. But let's go ahead and jump into the first match with the elf deck here. So ranked, historic, best of 1 elf deck. Here we go. So I take a big sip of water there. So first opponent coming up, we have Wildebeest with the Chandra Avatar. So possibly like a mono red burn deck, aggro deck type of deal, which is actually a very bad matchup for the elf deck. But we'll see how it goes. So we go first. We have a 1-drop that does generate us mana, although it's like one of our worst mana generators. So this is not really an ideal hand. Ideal hand is like turn 1 Elvish Mystic or Llanowar Elves for mana, and then you can turn 2 Elvish Archdruid and then start dropping your elves. That's really your best opening hand, but I don't want to mulligan down and have less cards, so we're just going to go with the turn 1 Jasper Sentinel, and then we have options for turn 2. Black, I'm assuming Fatal Push. Thoughtseize, okay, so he's going to get rid of one of my cards, and that'll dictate what we are able to do. Dwynen's Elite will get me another token, so this is good value. Yeah, it gets rid of the War Master. This would get me a token every turn, plus it has the pump ability that I really needed, so that was probably the right choice. The Clan Caller is good because it gives all elves +1/+1, which is also good value. So the question here, I don't really want to play the Allosaurus Shepherd. He's not in blue, so the counter thing probably isn't too important. The Dwynen's Elite would give me 3 power on the field for this turn, but I won't be able to attack until next turn. The Clan Caller, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get the Dwynen's Elite out, and that gives me 3 bodies. And the question is, do I attack in with 1, or do I play the Allosaurus Shepherd? I think I'm going to choose to attack this turn, just kind of whittle him down this way. I'm afraid that he maybe has extra removal, in which case I do want to keep some cards in hand. Looks like, yep, Fatal Push, so more removal. An Elvish Mystic of his own, which is just a 1/1, so I can safely attack in with the Sentinel if I need to, but what I'm thinking is I'll drop the Clan Caller, which is going to buff my elves and allow them to safely attack in. I doubt he blocks anyway, because he wants the mana from the Mana Dork. And then what I'll do is just drop the Shepherd, so that next turn when the Summoning Sickness is gone, I can attack in with all these little creatures and just keep whittling him down. The concern is if he has removal that targets all on-field creatures, then playing them all and having nothing in my hand means I'm pretty much screwed. He drops a Nazgul, which is going to come in essentially as a 2/3. And it does have Death Touch, so it is going to get whatever it blocks. We get another Allosaurus Shepherd, so what I want to do is get to 6 mana, so that I can do the Allosaurus Shepherd's ability, but that's going to take at least another turn if I draw into a land, so I really don't want to lose the Jespera Sentinel. I guess I'm just not going to attack this turn. I was considering just going wide. If I attack with this many creatures, I'll play the Shepherd. If I attack with this many creatures, I doubt that he blocks with the Mystic, but he'll get 1 with the Nazgul, and then the other 2 or 3 could have potentially gone around and done damage to his life, which at this point I'm just trying to whittle him down with a bunch of little hits. But I don't want to lose the Sentinel, because if I draw into a forest, I can then use him to tap for an extra mana, and then I can do the Allosaurus Shepherd's ability. I do have to sacrifice a creature here, and then he's going to be able to put that card onto the battlefield potentially. So what I'm going to do is get rid of the token. So I don't think he filtered anything really into his graveyard, so he can get his Mystic back. Turn another permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay. I'm not sure why he didn't, but we draw into Freyalise, which next turn, because I can untap the Jespera Sentinel with her, will allow me to have the 6 mana for the Allosaurus Shepherd swing. But this turn it does not help me, so what I'm going to do, I could do the +1 just to start working her towards her ultimate, but I think I'm just going to seek an elf card, considering that I don't have any in hand, and if he wipes out my board, then I'll really be in trouble, so I need to just keep generating elves to have enough bodies here. So I'm going to play the Dwynen's Elite, actually. I want to get as many creatures on the field as possible, so that next turn when I do the Allosaurus Shepherd ability, I can potentially just end the game. So that's going to involve us tapping the Jespera Sentinel for, doesn't matter, but I'll do green, and tapping another creature. So I'll tap the Clan Caller. That way if I need a blocker, I could use one of the 2 Allosaurus Shepherds. And then we'll tap the Forest for the other one. I'm not going to attack. I could get 2 damage in if I attacked, but don't want to lose the Shepherds before I buff them. So he plays a Forest, a Nurturing Peatland, sacrifices it, draws a card, and surrenders. Okay, so frankly, I just don't think this guy had a very good deck. Looked like maybe like a mono black. I guess it was Golgari, like a Golgari kind of control deck. The Fatal Push and the Thoughtseize definitely annoying to go up against. That is a good value card. Again, I'm not sure why he didn't bring the Mystic back. Maybe it had to have already been in his graveyard before he sacrificed it. You know, the Nazgul with the Death Touch actually held me at bay from attacking for too many turns because I didn't have enough creatures with 3 power to get rid of it. So going wide, I would have just, I would have been chipping at his health, but I would have been losing a creature every turn. And really what I was trying to do was just building up the board state so that it would have been this next turn. I could have done this Allosaurus Shepherd ability, turned them all into 5/5s, and then just attacked it and won. So I was just hoping that he didn't have enough removal to, you know, prune my board state before I was able to get to that point. So looks like he didn't quite have enough to be able to hold me back. And next turn I would have tapped 4. I would have tapped Jaspera Sentinel and the Clan Caller for 5. And then I would have untapped with Freyalise, the Jaspera Sentinel, tapped, and then I guess tapped the other Allosaurus Shepherd so that I made sure I had at least one of them safe. We wanted the Clan Caller and the Allosaurus Shepherd to not die to the Death Touch. Then I would have done the Allosaurus Shepherd ability. I would have been able to attack with 3 5/5s, which he would have blocked 1, which would have killed my creature, but he would have lost the Nazgul, which would have been good, and I would have done 10 damage to him, and then hopefully next turn I could have just done the same thing and then finished him off. So really not the best hand for this deck, but he just wasn't really able to keep up with the number of little creatures that I was throwing out and stop me from getting to that point where I was able to buff everything and finish the match. So that's how the elf deck works. A little more in-depth explanation there since it was the first match. Let's go ahead and jump into another match here, and we'll see how that goes. So it really just depends on the matchup, and it really depends on what I draw. This elf deck can win in like 4 turns. It just can absolutely pop off if you get the right hand, and if you don't run into any interference. It's just pretty unlikely for both of those things to happen within the same duel. But yeah, if you can like turn 1 Elvish Mystic, turn 2 Elvish Archdruid, and then turn 3 you can like drop another elf, tap the Archdruid for a bunch of mana, drop 2 more elves that all have additional enters the battlefield triggers, and stuff like that. So, not the best hand. He did mulligan, which is a little concerning, because he's definitely looking for something, which he may have gotten. This is not the best hand. If this Jaspera Sentinel was a Llanowar Elves or an Elvish Mystic that I could immediately tap for mana, this would be an amazing hand. As it stands, it's playable, but it's not the best, so we'll see what he does. He mulligans to 6, and he plays... Oh, this is going to be like a 3-color control deck type of deal, which honestly is one of the worst matchups for me, so we'll see how it goes. We'll just play the Jaspera Sentinel. I will not be able to get the Archdruid out next turn, which is a shame, because as soon as you can get him out with elves on the field, you get a lot of mana. He plays the Bane of Monsters, the Bounty card. Okay, and it has Death Touch, so he's going to start marking my creatures and then trying to remove them. Hopefully I can just generate more creatures than he has removal for, and that's the only way that I'm going to be able to get around him here. So what I'm going to want to do next turn for sure is play the Archdruid. So the question is for this turn, do I drop the Clan Caller for the buff? Or do I drop the War Master for the extra token trigger? I think I dropped the War Master. So the next turn I can drop the Archdruid. We're not going to attack, no point. He has 3 toughness, I only have 1 power. He marks my War Master. I'm assuming he has removal for it, which is why I was maybe considering dropping something else first. But best case scenario, when I drop the Archdruid, I get the War Master trigger. Okay, I don't. He destroys it. And then he gains 3 life and draws a card. And he could replay this 2/3 at some point. So we're going to play a Forest. We're going to hold on to this for the channel effect in case we need it, unless we need it for land. Now, the question is, again, if I drop the Archdruid, does he just have more removal? Which it seems like that's the whole thing his deck is trying to do. If I lose the Archdruid, it's going to really slow me down, so I think I may want to just put more creatures onto the field just to give him more targets for his removal and hopefully burn through his removal spells. So we'll do that. I'm not going to attack, and we're just going to try to kind of bait him into using his removal spells on what I already have on the field so that I could more safely get the Archdruid and the Clan Caller out, even though this is a much slower tempo, which is not what the elf deck wants to do. It wants to play really fast before the opponent can really get enough mana to start doing stuff. Okay, so he's going to destroy the Sentinel. Damn. I could tap it for a mana, but there's no point, so I'll let it resolve. He's going to draw a card and gain 3 life, and then whenever I go to attack, he's going to deal 2 damage to me and gain 2 life, so he's already up to 23 life. He's going to keep gaining life. This is where I could go ahead and channel the Boseiju and get rid of the Oath. But what I could also do is buff up all my elves here. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hope he just doesn't have a board wipe. If he does, I'd be screwed either way, so I might as well just go for it. We're going to use all of our available mana with the Elvish Mystic to drop the Archdruid and the Clan Caller, which gives +1/+1 to all my elves. So I can go ahead and attack with these two. Now, if he wants to block and lose this guy, that's fine with me. I don't have bounty counters on either of these, so I don't have to worry about that. And if he doesn't block, which he doesn't, he just takes the damage to his health, and hopefully I can just keep whittling him down this way. He puts the bounty counter on the 4/4. Interesting decision. Yep, he's coming. So there's the board wipe I was afraid of. That's why I was kind of trying to hold cards back in my hand, so that after the board wipe I had something to play. As it stands, I'm in a little bit of trouble here. So this card is great because whenever I cast an elf spell, I could just pay 1 and then draw a card. I could draw into another elf card, drop it, pay 1, draw another card, and like potentially get multiple elf plays per turn. But that involves me having this creature stick around. So I think what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to go ahead and channel the Boseiju and just get rid of the Oath. Just for something to do, basically, and just to keep his board state clear. And then I'm going to wait until next turn to play this. Hopefully I draw into an elf, and then I can play this and then get a trigger. Because I'm afraid if I play it right now, he's just going to have a removal spell, and I'll immediately lose it. So I'm kind of hoping he taps out here, and then I could safely play this and draw an elf and get the trigger. Not sure that that's going to happen. Looking like I'm in pretty bad shape against this matchup. As I was saying, if you run into like any kind of removal or board wipes, this elf deck just falls apart, so pretty sure this is going to be a loss. Okay, but we did get a good outcome there in the sense that he's tapped out, so destroy target non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less, which is a shame. Don't want this thing to get to its ultimate, obviously, which he could do in 2 turns. So we're going to do what I said we were going to do. So we're going to play the Visionary, and then since he can't remove it, we can safely get the trigger from playing the Llanowar Elf, which draws us into the Fierce Empath, which will be good for a trigger next turn if the Visionary sticks around, and it'll allow us to find the Craterhoof Behemoth and potentially win with that. Unfortunately, he does the Oath of Kaya, destroys the Leaf Crown Visionary, so I'm not going to be able to get the additional triggers. Plays another Shovel for the bounty counters where he can gain life and draw cards. And he plays a Paradise Druid to ramp him into even more spells. Murderous Rider is going to attack. I'm not going to block. I have plenty of life, and I don't want to lose my mana ramp. I draw into a Forest. I'm now at 7. Craterhoof Behemoth takes 8. I might as well just play it and get the Craterhoof Behemoth in hand. It's pretty much my only chance at this point. Otherwise, again, there would be something to be said for waiting to play it, so that he didn't just immediately remove it. It'd be better to play multiple creatures in a turn. Treacherous Blessing draws 3 cards. And he's going to lose a life, but he's just going to sacrifice it. Interesting deck, so he plays these things basically as burn spells, and then it gives him like free things to sacrifice for the +2, which means he's going to be able to ultimate next turn and win the game. If he doesn't have removal, I can maybe get the Behemoth out, but kills 4 cards, exiles my graveyard. Can't search my library, which thankfully I already did last turn, so draw into the Mystic. That does not give us the mana we need. If we had drawn into a Forest, we could have dropped the Craterhoof Behemoth and attacked in with some creatures, but as it stands, he's going to ult his Vraska and probably just win the game. I'll play the Mystic. Now, if he attacks with all 3, I'll need to block all 3. So I'm going to need to leave these open as blockers. If I attack in with both and try to hit Vraska, he could just block. Yeah, he says good game. He knows that it's over. Drops another Planeswalker.
This curse, this thrumming,
He destroys the creature, so I can't block, and then he just ults Vraska. Yup. Attacks with all three, goes wide. I can't block them all, so it's going to hit, and then he is going to win the game. Okay, so again, that's where this elf deck tends to fall apart. Now, if he didn't have that like board wipe spell, what was it, Shatter the Sky, would have been a totally different story. Obviously, I already had a ton of elves on the field, and I was just going to keep comboing the elves and just chipping him down very quickly. Probably could have gone through all of his single removal spells and still had elves on the field and still been chipping him for damage, but certainly as soon as they play like a destroy all creatures type card, after I've dropped all my hand onto the field, I just can't draw into enough usually to, you know, reestablish a good board position. So pretty much where this elf deck falls apart. So that's what that looks like, kind of to be expected. Very good deck when it works, but very easy to counter as well. So there is a loss with the deck. We'll go ahead and do at least another match with the elf deck. We could definitely string together some wins here if we get the right matchups. I would not be opposed to just getting a full rank up with the elf deck and then seeing if we can get a full rank up with the angel deck just to kind of showcase them. So we're going up against Sok with the, what is that, Nahiri avatar. So possibly Boros, possibly equipment. That looks like Boros too, right? So we'll see what he's playing. I go first. I have a 1-drop that generates mana. So that's generally, as long as I have that, this deck feels pretty safe. I don't have a lot of other things, but basically what we're going to do, we're going to keep this hand, and we're just going to do like we did the first match, where we're just going to build towards being able to play the Shepherd and then do his like ultimate ability there, whatever you want to call it. So we'll play the elves. Hopefully don't run into any turn 1 removal. He drops a Plains and an Esper Sentinel, so that is very annoying. When I play my first non-creature spell, he will draw a card. I only have two non-creature spells, I think are the 2 copies of Collected Company, or maybe I have 4 copies. I don't remember how many copies I have actually, but I don't have a lot of non-creature spells, so that actually doesn't scare me too much. What we're going to do is just get certainly our mana dorks on the field, so we're already up to 5 mana now. So if we draw into something big, we could play it pretty soon. And then I think the other thing, I think I'm going to hold on to the Allosaurus Shepherd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, if I play it now and draw into a land, then next turn I could just go ahead and do the ult. I'm just afraid of removal, which if he's playing this kind of deck, this is quite possibly, I think this is like the Azorius Esper deck probably. He probably has removal, so that's why I'm thinking about holding on to the Shepherd. But I'm just going to go for it. We're going to hope that he doesn't have removal for it, and if not, and I draw into a land, I can attack in next turn with a 5/5. Okay, so Invisible Stalker has hexproof, cannot be blocked, so he's probably going to put something on it that allows him to get an advantage for doing combat damage, I would imagine, some type of equipment or something, but I'm not going to block, don't want to lose any of my mana creatures or my Shepherd. We do not draw into the land to do the Allosaurus Shepherd this turn, but we do draw into the Archdruid, which is going to give us plenty of mana to do that next turn. It will also allow us to buff everything else to 2/2, so then we can attack. Not going to block, he's going to take the damage. I keep a couple cards in hand in case he has a board wipe. Yeah, so... Oh no, he's going to Hammertime. This is a Hammertime deck. So I cannot block that. It's going to deal 11 damage. Unless he has removal, though, I think I can win next turn. Okay. Yep, so here's going to be the play. He's going to win next turn because I can't block this thing. I have no way to remove it. He has no open mana, so he can't do anything with this. So here's the thing. I can make 5/5/5. How much... I can't block. I have to kill him this turn, so I think this is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's enough as it stands. What I can do anyway is play this and then that'll give me 4. That'll give me 6 creatures on the field, and that takes 6. So yeah, so we're gonna play this for the 2 forests. That creates a token, so it counts as 2 creatures. Now we have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we have 7 creatures on the field. So we tap the Archdruid for his mana, and then we can do the Allosaurus Shepherd ability, buff them all up, and then we attack. So he can block 1, but he's gonna have to take 3 of them. What am I missing here? Okay, I'm not missing anything good. Okay, so pretty crazy to beat a crazy Hammertime deck like that, because that is like kind of the standard for just like crazy aggro. I've lost to this deck on like turn 2 before. You just get this 11/11 that can't be blocked with hexproof nonetheless. That's really hard to beat, but more than he could get this big creature out with big power and toughness that can't be blocked or destroyed in this amount of turns, I was able to generate a board state with this much power on it this early with only 2 mana. So again, that's where this elf deck really shines. It really can out aggro a lot of decks. It's just if they have removal and slow you down, that's where you run into issues. So was able to get just enough creatures on the field to get my mana, to buff my to use my shepherd's buff, excuse me, and attack with 4 6/6s. So they get the +1/+1 from the Archdruid. He could have blocked 1 of them. He would have taken 18. He was lost either way because we had chipped him down previously. And there you go. That is the power of the elf deck right there. So that's pretty much what it looks like when you win. And the previous match is pretty much what it always looks like when you lose. So that gets our 2 quests completed. Let's go ahead and jump into another one with the elf deck. I'll see if I can maybe get like a whole rank up with just this deck before we switch over to the angel deck. And then I'll showcase that one a little bit. So let me take another swig of water here as we find an opponent. Alrighty, picking a winner for us. We get X-Slock, who has, looks like probably some kind of Rakdos deck or something, just based on the flavor that he is projecting there. This hand is okay, so I'm going to keep it. Because it has 1 mana and other creatures that can generate mana, that's okay. Generally a 1 mana hand is like a questionable keep, but because I have other things that can generate mana, that'll be enough to hopefully get me through to some of these other cards. So he's in blue. Interesting. So we'll have to see a little more before we know exactly what he's trying to do. Hopefully he doesn't have a counter spell. Looks like he probably does here. Okay. Oh, an opt. Interesting. So he's just going to filter through, look to fix his hand a little bit. So right now okay, here it comes. Brazen Borrower. Yeah, alright, so I was going to say it looks like the tempo's in my favor, but with that, he's really slowing me down. So I do have to be careful here. If I wait too long, like I need to get everything on the field now and start swinging in, because if I wait too long, he's just going to take control of the game by controlling the board state and then being able to hit me with his creatures. So not drawing into a second land is really bad. If I was able to have this Llanowar Elf stick, it would have been kind of okay, because I would have at least had access to 2 mana on turn 2. As it stands, I have to replay the Llanowar Elves for this turn, which really slows me down. He leaves his mana open, doesn't do anything that turn, so probably has a counterspell or something. Kind of stinks playing a 1 mana spell and nothing else on turn 3, but I think I just want, since I'm missing land drops, I need to get the mana on the field. I'm kind of assuming he has a counterspell or some kind of removal, since he's just sitting there with open lands, but I'm going to ping him for 1, just start whittling him down a little bit. Okay, he's, I don't know, maybe he's in multicolor and he's like missing a land color, because he's missing land drops too. Not sure what's going on his side of the field. I am concerned that if I play too many cards, he's just going to remove them all. Thankfully, I can get really good value out of Coco, so I think that's the play. Hoping that he's just like bogged down with not drawing what he needs, and that he's not like actively waiting for me to establish a better board state before he does something. We definitely want the Archdruid for the extra mana as well as the +1/+1. And then the War Master is good for the finisher plus the elf triggers. But this Visionary is going to let me cycle through and draw more cards, which is kind of what I need to do at this point. I need to find lands. So he only has... Oh, he surrenders. Okay, so... not a very fun or interesting match there. I'm going to go ahead and assume that he just... He's probably in Azorius colors, I would guess. And he like needed a plains to play anything in his hand. Or maybe everything in his hand was 3 mana, and he just didn't find his 3rd mana. So... not really a good matchup there. You know, I was kind of screwed with only having 1 forest and him bouncing my elf, so I was at a really, really slow start. Thankfully, I was able to build up to a pretty good board state, and I had a lot of answers for removal just by having cards in hand that I could have played to reestablish a board state, although it would have been hard to do with only 2 mana. So I was just about to get rolling there. He had a lot of cards in hand, so he probably could have had answers for almost anything I was able to do, but he didn't have the mana for it, so enough said about that match. That's just not even a good match. That's probably just he, you know, got starved for mana, wasn't able to do anything, so he just surrendered, so it's not even really a good indication of what this deck can do, but we did get to see a Collected Company drop and see that card for the first time. And we go right into the next match against Bloatus here with the little orc archer. I don't know who that is actually, with a dragon sleeve, so no idea what kind of deck this guy might be running. This is the perfect hand in the sense that it's turn 1 Llanowar Elves, turn 2 Elvish Archdruid, and then turn 3, I mean, we could drop Coco, we could do Clan Caller for +1/+1, like, we have a lot of options here. Again, the issue is if we run into removal, we're screwed. This looks like possibly a mirror match. If it is, him going first is probably going to be the difference. This could also be it could be Gruul, it could be a lot of other things. Okay, definitely looking like a mirror match now. So with him being on the play, he just gets to generate all of his mana and get his creatures out first, which is probably going to be the difference. The only other thing is if I just have better cards than him. So I'm going to get the Archdruid out for sure. If it is a mirror match, he probably doesn't have removal, so I'm probably safe, and by getting the Archdruid, I may be able to out-ramp him, and that's the only way I'm going to be able to win here. So yeah, he Cocos, that's what I was going to do next turn. So he's basically just a turn ahead of me every time. He gets the War Master trigger, he's building up a big board, he can already go wide on me. I'm not going to block that, he hits in for 3, he's just going to keep chipping me down. So what I'm going to do is Coco first. Okay, so let's take another Archdruid for more mana, and let's take the Crown Visionary so that we can cycle through for more elves. They also both give +1/+1, so now our elves are bigger than his. And what we're going to do is tap the Archdruid for 4, and then we're going to play another +1/+1 card, and we're going to pay the 1 for another draw. And then we're going to play the Sentinel as a blocker, essentially. So now we have a better board state than him, but he could easily drop a couple of elves that would change it. So yeah, an Archdruid, going to give him a lot more ramp. Thankfully, well, we have the same number of cards in hand, but I'm going to give him more ramp, and it gives him the +1/+1. But because I have 3 +1/+1s, my elves are bigger, so he's probably not going to attack. Now, I just need to find a finisher before he does, because next turn he can do the War Master thing, and then I'm screwed. So I need... Okay, so I need a War Master. He gets another +1/+1 on everything. May consider attacking with the War Master if he's not paying attention. Okay, perfect. So we're going to play our Shepherd. We are going to draw a whole bunch of cards here, because what we're going to do is we're going to do the Shepherd's ability to attack in with everything, and then I'm going to need like replacement creatures for whatever he blocks and destroys. So we're going to pay the 1. Okay, we get a War Master, which is good. I'm going to pay the 1 again. We get another Elves, which is good because it's a 1 mana drop. So the thing here is going to be, first we do... I'm going to want to attack with this Llanowar Elf. So first we do the Archdruid, gets 7 mana. We'll do the War Master first. We'll pay the 1 twice. Looking for more elves. Yep, yep. Actually, you know what I could do at this point? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I think I'll just go for this instead. So what I was going to do is I was going to keep playing elves until I ran out of mana and drawing cards until I ran out of mana. Then I was going to tap this Archdruid to keep playing elves and drawing cards until I was out of mana, and hopefully generate enough 1/1 creatures like the Visionary or the Archdruid to just have like bigger elves. Or I was going to spend the second Archdruid to do the Allosaurus Shepherd dinosaur thing and then attack in with a bunch of like 10/10s. But I have just enough mana to do this, so I'm going to play the Empath. I'm going to decline to do this. I think he's just going to surrender here. We're not going to get to see it because he knows what's coming. But we're going to decline. We need to save all of our mana for this to work. Please don't surrender. I want to show this off. Decline. We search our library for the Craterhoof Behemoth. Then we tap the Elvish Archdruid. We play the Behemoth. Everything gets plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everything gets +9/+9 and trample. So we take action. Draw the Craterhoof Behemoth. Actually, it'd be 10. We tap the Archdruid for 10. This takes 8 mana. We play it. He has no mana open. He can't tap the Archdruid for mana, so he can't have Fog or anything like that. He can't hit the War Master trigger. Oh, interesting. Chord of Calling. He convoked it. I wonder what he has for mana value 2 or less that could potentially save him this turn. There's no creature that's like when it enters the battlefield, prevent all combat damage this turn or something, is there? What did he play? An Allosaurus Shepherd. That doesn't save him. That can resolve. Gives him another elf. Nope, he surrenders. Alright, well, that was kind of drawn out there. Like, I wanted to explain what I was doing so that you could see how this deck works. Kind of poor etiquette as we get our rank up here to like leave him on the line that long. But worked out. He didn't have any answers. He started off with much better tempo in this one because he was going first and he had his mana drop. He had his War Master that was generating extra tokens. He got his +1/+1s out. He was drawing extra cards. Like, he started off in a lot better position, but I was able to outgain him by getting the Archdruid out first, and that just gave me so much more extra mana that I could just dump into the Visionary to keep drawing elves. And then you see how that works. Like, you get the mana, you play the elf, you spend the mana to get another elf, you play that elf, you spend the mana to get another elf, you play that elf, you spend the mana to get another elf, and then you fill up your board with elves so that you can get even more mana, and then repeat the process, and you just build this huge board, and then you just drop the Craterhoof Behemoth. Everything gets +X/+X and trample. So in this case, that's making everything, 15, 16, 17. He did not have enough blockers at all to stop the 16, 32, 62, 78 damage that I was going to hit him with. So that's a good win. So yeah, that's how the elf deck works. That's a few good matches there, I would say. Some examples of when it works well, and some examples of when it falls apart very quickly. So it is always an option to play that deck going forward. I still think the Is It Wizards deck is more consistent, but that is what that elf deck looks like, and that is a deck that we can play going forward. Seeing as we got our rank up there, we are now up to gold tier 1. So I'm going to leave it here for now, and then we will pick it up next time with the Mono White Angel deck. See if we can get another rank up to platinum with that deck. And then going forward, we'll be able to decide between the Is It Wizards, the Elf deck, and the Angel deck, which one we think is going to get us the most wins, and then play with that deck to hopefully continue to push up to Mythic. But that's going to be all for now, so thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.